welcome to the Repeating podcast. My name is Ayush, and we have three other people with us on the podcast. As usual, let's do a round of name calling.
Today they can see the names on their screen.
Yeah.
Haha,
Yeah,
but
actually.
still,
Okay,
putting.
Sagar and
Laksh.
it'll go in
Utsav.
the same sequence.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, Utsav too.
Okay, so I'm Utsav.
Thank you.
Laksh.
Thank you. Okay, so this week's topic is also a little quite interesting. And do you all drive
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
often? Yeah.
yeah,
And
quite
I
often.
think
A car
so.
or
Wait,
someone crazy.
all four of us are from like technically one person is in Gujarat and the rest of us are in Maharashtra. Have you all ever seen at like a petrol pump uh, a different variant of petrol available for you to choose?
Yeah. High
Yeah,
octane.
High
high octane
octane,
ones.
then
Ethanol based.
ethanol based petrol.
Yeah.
Ding 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 ding. So you've seen ethanol based petrol before.
Yeah,
Yes.
Is it available in Gujarat as well? Like, or at least in the area that you are in at the moment, sorry?
No man, I
Okay.
haven't seen one.
Okay.
Usually I don't go and fill petrol. I run the car till it becomes like in reserve, and then my father
Same,
has to go
same.
and fill the petrol.
Same. That's the
same.
same scene. But I've seen ethanol based petrol.
Yeah.
That's a nice financial tip.
Yeah, yeah. Because I don't
Yeah.
get anxiety even if it is in reserve. My father
Yeah.
does. Then he
Of
goes to the
course.
petrol pump.
Mine though gets if it's below half only.
It does some. I mean, like engine efficiency depends on you filling petrol within a certain limit, right? Like before
I
it
We
hits
aren't
a certain mark,
engineers.
and after it hits a certain mark, you should keep petrol between that sort of radar. Like
Yeah,
how
like
people
it's
say,
like a
ki,
battery
huh,
basically.
exactly. That's
It's
what.
like a you got to charge it between and you have to charge
To
it
end.
till a certain level. Yeah.
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 So it's like
Huh.
that.
So
So tell me more about this ethanol based petrol since
yeah,
I'm from Gujarat and I've never seen one.
I
yeah.
think let
So
Utsav have the much of sorry.
So ethanol based petrol or ethanol blended petrol is basically where you put ethanol, which is basically ethyl alcohol, and you blend it into your normal petrol. And what it does is it reduces the amount of petrol they're using, obviously, so lower emissions, and it helps in higher combustion because you're basically adding fuel to fuel. So that just makes it better fuel in this
So
case.
more combustible fuel to existing fuel.
Yeah.
So it burns better basically.
It burns better, yeah, and it burns cleaner. So burns
Cleaner.
better and cleaner is what the USP seems to be for ethanol blending, and it's
Does
been something that India is very gung ho about for the past
was
But
decade
the key
now.
point you're missing here. Key point is it makes it cheaper.
cheaper,
It
yeah.
is also
Cheaper.
And
Hard
cheaper.
won.
every person
Yeah,
wants
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
everyone
it's
wants it
cheaper by like
cheaper.
8 to 10 rupees or something per liter, but I think that makes up for quite the saving in the longer term
Yeah.
when you keep filling.
Even the government wants to introduce this as in to reduce the petrol imports.
Yeah, so according to what the government said, if they end up, so the goal is okay, wait, we'll get to that, but they are expecting at least 30,000 crores worth of savings in terms of like petrol import if they start blending ethanol into the petroleum that we have already.
Sorry, 30,000 crores of savings for the on the government's kitty.
Yeah, every year.
Oh. Plus, there'll be obviously savings on the consumer's purse as well, right? It's
Right,
not
exactly.
just.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think more than it being a monetary benefit, they're looking at it from the ESG perspective because emissions are like
Yeah.
at all time. Oh, like on the topic, apparently July, except for India, which is going through a monsoon, in places that it is the summer, all of those places are hitting the hottest month ever recorded in over 1,000 years. All because of global warming and adverse effects of just
Now
emissions from our end.
UN declared this also, no, that we aren't
Global burning.
Yeah, global boiling. Not
boiling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
boiling.
we're far from global warming now. They're calling it
Warming now.
global boiling.
Boiling.
Yeah, so although people may or may not believe in global warming as a concept at all, it's pretty real, and each government, I think, is looking forward to changing it or making an improvement.
But we also had the hottest summer. No? The
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
heat
did.
wave was pretty
Yeah,
bad in India.
there
Now
was.
Yeah.
that it's so wet, you all are forgetting ऐसे मस्ती
Yeah,
इतना
I know.
गर्मी था.
It's
But
recency
Nahi,
bias.
nahi. It's still hot only in Bombay.
so
No,
every
no,
season is
I mean,
suffering. It
No,
was
it's
first
quite
very
nice now.
hot, now it's full wet.
yeah,
Wet, and now it's going to be very cold.
Which is okay. Bombay cold is something I look forward
अरे
to.
नहीं,
yeah.
Pune is
It's
very
not too
cold right
cold, but
now
it's nice.
only.
yeah.
Pune
I
cold
mean,
is bad.
clearly you're wearing like a hoodie and all of that.
Hoodie. Yeah, yeah.
That just looks cool, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The podcast drip.
I swear.
He'll be seen by like a few hundred people. No? So Laksh is like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
he's
prepping
hoping
for
for
that.
comments. Who's
That's
that
like
cute boy in the hoodie?
that's like half of my Instagram reach, bro. 100 people. I'm
Yeah.
happy with that. Bit.
But it's a pretty interesting topic of conversation that's happening around ethanol blending. And as of 2022 end, uh, we've hit about a 11% blending rate, which means how much ever ethanol was blended into the total used gasoline in about 11 states where this experimentation is happening. About 11% of the petroleum is being blended now into it with ethanol. Why are
Why
you
is Laksh
laughing?
laughing?
You find global emissions a laughing matter?
We have a fifth.
Gasoline, bro.
Yeah.
We have a fifth member also
So
on the
funny.
podcast today. There's a pigeon near someone's house.
Is it near mine? Mine is only
Yeah.
drilling for
I
all
like how
intents and
Laksh is now conscious about bird sounds from being
No, no.
oblivious to
Now
them
I realize
earlier.
it. When I hear it from the all, तभी I realize when it's in my
कबूतर का
back.
तो आवाज भी नहीं आता इतना गंदा पक्षी है
Kabut.
छोटा सा
yeah.
it doesn't even
नहीं
make
नहीं
a
नहीं
sound like
कौवा
your
कौवा
birds.
sorry crow.
Crow though is even worse sound. No,
Yeah, so I
this was
think
a
it's
nice sound,
coming.
whatever it was. See, nice voice. Sounds like a
This is
flamingo.
coming from my house, but
From
someone.
no one else's house has bird sounds coming from it.
Oh,
Hey,
bro.
no, please. Sagas, so this
We
office
have
mein
artificial fauna,
Yeah.
flora, sorry. Anyway,
Artificial animals.
but it's fine.
Huh.
So yeah.
But yeah, back to the topic as usual.
Yes. So
We've
which
reached a
company do you think will do well in this ethanol?
segue into the topic. The company that we're discussing today and is quite the monumental contributor to this entire ethanol blending thing is something called Praj
Praj
Industries.
Industries.
Yeah, pretty cool company. They're the ones who make the manufacturing units or plants that produce the ethanol. For yeah, so
you
that's
remember
basically
how
what
we
they're doing.
started talking about Praj though? Where we were last month talking about sugar stocks and whether to do
Yeah,
something, some research on sugar
right.
stocks. And the whole ethanol blending topic came and which sugar company will benefit. And
Yeah,
Ayush's conclusion was fuck sugar stocks, let's just do Praj Industries.
yeah,
Because whatever happens to sugar stocks, Praj will provide the machinery and Praj will obviously benefit from it. Uh,
absolutely.
but good thesis, I think.
Huh. At
So
least,
you want
at
to
least that's one
probably
pointer. Yeah,
start with clarifying the whole sugar aspect because I think whenever we talk about ethanol blending, the
yeah,
first thing that at least you read on the internet or you hear any news channel talking about or any analyst talking about is sugar. So there is a very strong association made between sugar and ethanol.
yeah.
But what turns out is, so why are we not doing sugar stocks or bullish on sugar stocks because of this whole ethanol blending thing, and why are we focusing on Praj instead?
Okay. So why the correlation exists between sugar stocks and ethanol in the first place is because to make ethanol, you need some form of sucrose or sugar. So automatically, if you have the raw material for ethanol lying around as your primary source of business, it is only natural for you to allot some of it to produce said ethanol. So everyone was like, oh, great, sugar stocks, one more additional source of income. They'll do exceptionally well. But what people didn't probably think about before investing into said sugar stocks was the amount of capex that goes into setting up an ethanol plant is fairly on the high side. Lakshya was asking how much it costs to set up an ethanol
Yeah,
plant.
how much?
Yeah. So on
Were we
average,
there?
yeah,
Okay, take it.
because we were talking about how sugar companies
Yeah,
find
yeah,
it
yeah.
difficult. Huh? So yeah, so let's take 100 kiloliters worth of uh, ethanol produced a day as the metric for that one
KLPD.
plant.
Yeah,
KLPD, yes,
KLPD.
that's yeah,
So I was quite used to it.
100 KLPDs a day.
a
What is
day,
your
bro.
thoughts of?
What's up, man?
How many KLPDs have happened to you?
Take it easy on Tinder, bro.
That's
No, no.
So yeah, for 100 KLPD worth of
KLPD.
ethanol, uh, it takes about 150 crores on average to set up just the plant. Then there's another few hundred crores that go into producing a certain amount of ethanol a year. And that
What a
entire process at the end of it results in a very low margin business for the sugar industry.
so what's the margin for Praj? Like,
For Praj, give me a second. So
is
let's see.
it
So how
doing
much?
well over
Let Sagar, any idea how much like the average sugar company makes in terms of an EBITDA margin or a
No, dude. I think it'll be very variable because what happens is the price of sugar is controlled by the government, right?
right?
So your cost is sort of fixed, but no, cost is also not fixed because the output will never be fixed. Because there's a lot of variable conditions in terms of rainfall during the year, weather conditions,
Yeah,
raw material availability, raw material in the sense like even the price of seeds for pesticides, for insecticides, everything's going off the roof. Then there's EAB prices for manpower. That is another like big issue these days. So
yeah,
I think it's a very dynamic place to be in because you can't predict either the input cost or the weather or the output or the price of the output.
yeah,
So I think overall trying to understand what sugar margins are is a messy space to be in.
yeah.
So I think the whole proposition for sugar players to get into ethanol was the fact that they can increase the output of their sugar by probably getting into ethanol, finding an additional source of revenue. And whereas the government will always try and put a minimum support price on sugar, so the farmer benefits, they'll always have a cap in terms of the ethanol price so that it becomes affordable for the consumer.
Right.
So I think the opposing dynamics in this case work pretty well for sugar companies. So I think it's a welcome move by most sugar players, right?
Yeah,
Um,
everyone's starting in on the ethanol production bit,
is it like
but
a
now.
value
still,
addition?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure, right? You're diversifying out of just producing pure sugar, getting into
So a lot
basically
of
the
sugar
energy
players do
sector.
that, right? They make alcohol. They make
Yeah,
alcohol
Yeah,
for
yeah.
other, like for alcohol spirit companies.
yeah,
They usually buy alcohol from sugar companies or whoever's making the base alcohol. So
Okay.
ethanol seems like a natural extension to any sugar player. But yeah, it's not the only source for making ethanol. You've got ethanol can also be made from wheat and rice and stuff, right?
Even
So
Hell
the
yeah.
government is now pushing for ethanol production through maize only. For that reason, they incentivize maize because maize uses less water than sugar.
right.
yeah,
So
or
yeah,
But then
rice. So
again,
maize will
maize will get
be
expensive, right?
no because maize का ये होता है that maize is not your staple grain, right? Uh,
Hmm.
Nobody makes makke di roti and sarson da saag every day at home. Maize is not one of those which is eaten as much as a wheat or rice,
Yeah.
at least in India. So when it comes to, I think China, maize production is very high because it's used as fodder for pork, and pork production and consumption is very high. So maize becomes important from that standpoint. In the
Okay.
US, maize production is very high because of either corn flour or additives in packaged foods or ethanol
Corn
production.
syrup. I think it's mainly
And
because of
corn syrup,
corn
yeah.
syrup only. They use more corn
Yeah.
syrup than sugar.
So that's the deal with maize. In India, it's not got much of a use case other than, uh, I mean, not so much of a use case as a China or US in human consumption or animal consumption, and hence probably the government is. And anyway, wheat and rice ka idhar locha hota hi hai in terms of keeping the population fed and at a reasonable price. So it's always preferred that it's diverted towards stuff like sugar and maize, which are not absolute necessities.
But even then, right, although let's say sugar is one of the most widely used materials at the moment, or like sugar byproducts to create ethanol, they're trying to move away from pure sources of food. So whether that's your actual sugarcane or actual molasses, or actual whole maize, wheat, rice, etc., they're trying to move towards more sustainable forms, which is the agricultural produce that gets wasted. So let's say, for example, when you have ganne ka ras and the excess cane that's left out of it, they're trying to use that to make ethanol instead. The rice, wheat, and maize that don't make it to the actual markets, that are broken or just not fit for consumption, basically, that's what they intend to be using now, and in an increasing fashion to create ethanol, because those also have compounds of cellulose, which can be broken down into sugar and then ethanol produced from that. So there's an active push for ethanol overall, regardless of what the material seems to be used. But yet, the companies or entities providing said material may not be at the higher end of the benefit scale than the companies setting up the infrastructure for ethanol production, which is where probably Praj is being a better play on the ethanol story.
Right. So you mentioned two drivers, right? One is ethanol uh, usage because of blending,
Yeah.
and second, a movement within, whereas the source of production changes
Yeah.
from um, rice, wheat slash sugar to other things.
Right.
But how does it look in terms of numbers if you had to like put it to on a national scale,
Yeah.
just to understand what kind of like explosion or mediocre growth are we talking about? What's the same?
Are you talking from the sense of whether the ethanol blending thing is working or not? And if so, to what
हाँ
extent?
मतलब like how much ethanol are we talking about? If the blending rate currently is 11% and the
Yeah.
government aims to make it 20% by
Yeah.
2030, 2030, no? What is that?
No, no,
2030.
2026.
2025. Oh, 26, yeah,
Whatever.
25,
Three,
26.
Oh,
4 years.
अभी इतने जल्दी?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
on that point, so like just to give context to the viewer who may not know about anything on this topic, there's something called the National Biofuel Policy that was set up in 2018, where they said ki we're going to incrementally blend ethanol into petroleum and we're going to test it in certain states. And along with the blending, the testing will also expand to more states in each year. And the initial goal was, as you mentioned, the 20% blending rate to be accomplished by 2030. But because of the boom and because the goal has been expedited, we'll reach the 20% blending in 3 years rather than seven
But so 20% into petrol, right?
into
Yeah.
petrol. Yeah.
But normal cars, like the cars that we have right now,
Yeah.
they wouldn't support that. We need a different engine.
So it may not be a different engine altogether. So firstly, I think most cars that have been manufactured from 2015, 2016 onwards would have at least the engine that can take said ethanol blended fuel, or can be retrofitted with some kind of addition to the engine to facilitate you using that. And plus,
Okay.
so they've done like rounds of testing, and it has been found that even if your car cannot take it at all, there won't be any significant long term damage to your engine anyway. But it's better to morph your car to suit the flex fuel.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
so
sure,
okay.
yeah.
So if it goes from 11 to 20, chalo
Yeah.
27 tak,
Huh.
like what is the kind of growth rate you'll see in ethanol consumption?
Yeah. Okay, so let's say, for example, right now, to achieve that 11% blending goal, it takes about 500, 520 crore liters of ethanol in the year. To reach your 20% blending goal, it'll be about 700, 750 crores of crore liters of ethanol, which then requires you to have capacity at least of north of 1,200 crore liters worth of uh, ethanol to be
So
housed.
capacity can double basically within
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
2 years.
uh,
Consumption
Double,
will go up
but
by
okay, let's say
like
for
around
example, right now,
50%.
although they produced 530, so the numbers as of 2022, I'll tell you, because 20 they calculate this on a calendar year basis. So as of 2022 end, if they had produced 520 crore liters worth of ethanol, the capacity for it was at about 900 crore liters.
Okay.
So
So
to
they're
reach your
running like a
700, 800 crore liters worth of production alone, your 900 crore liter capacity would have to touch a 1500 crore liter capacity. So, mota moti around
Chalo,
300, 400
50%
crore.
growth.
Yeah,
But
okay.
still,
50%.
50% growth over the next couple of years is
Yeah,
what there is visibility for,
yeah,
But
right?
that's
Which is quite
consumption growth.
amazing.
right.
Yeah.
Because this is sure shot going to happen. It's not that
What's
they'll
the
give up midway or that they'll be okay with the current situation. They are aiming for the
Yeah.
20. They will hit the 20. The capacity will be achieved, and Praj will be a major contributor to that capacity also.
How much market share does Praj have in the whole machinery that goes into ethanol?
So in India, they have about a 60% market share, and in the
Okay.
world, they have about a 10% market share.
and how much is
But
the
World Cup will be
capacity?
irrelevant, right?
Yeah,
Because the drivers are for India right now.
correct. So in India,
Yeah.
60% market share.
And how much capacity can
Sorry,
they
what you were saying.
produce right now?
So they don't produce, right? They only set up the machinery. So if the
Oh,
country has 900 or 1,000 crore liters, then they have set up 600 of it. And that too, most of it in the past 5, 7 years.
okay.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff for Praj on that front at least.
So, but is it reflecting in Praj's order book? Do they have any numbers that reflect?
Yes, so I think their order book has, wait,
And who
I
are
think
like
it
the
has
key
tripled in the past
competitors?
5 years, if I'm not wrong. It went from about 1,000 crores to 3,000 crores worth of orders.
And who are the key competitors for Praj?
So it doesn't seem like there's a direct competitor in terms of an entity that's actually producing for other
Producing.
companies, like how Praj does it.
Okay.
So either they reach out to Praj, they reach out to a
Hmm.
foreign entity who comes and does it for them, or they do it themselves.
And does the foreign entity, is it cheaper for them or
I'm
more
sure it's
expensive?
not. I'm sure it's not. There doesn't seem to be any subsidy in place in terms of a foreign entity to come because Praj is
Hmm.
well equipped to do it themselves. They don't have the need to import the service of
True.
setting up the plant.
Okay.
Yeah. But like in terms of Praj's financials, it's definitely shown. Like so just that segment of revenue of setting up ethanol plants, it has grown by 5 times in the 5 years. Just and that segment is basically most of their revenue. 75% now.
So it can go up another 1.5x in the next 2 years. That segment,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And do
a
we see any?
1.5x plus.
yeah. Yeah. Plus the other segments that are also
No, but
there.
no, I'm saying so plus because also it's not only going to be ethanol based, but also the kachra based that you were talking about, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Which is something that actually Praj has a certain expertise in. So they have patents to their names on a global standing, in which they have 2G. So I don't think we even covered this bit.
No, you should.
Hmm.
So
One
when we
J, two
mean
G.
kachra and non-kachra based ethanol, it's called 1G of first generation, which is your using core materials, your sugarcane, rice, wheat, maize, corn,
Anything that is fit
etc.
for human consumption.
Right, exactly. That's your 1G ethanol. The baki ka stuff that you cannot necessarily eat, that's what goes into 2G ethanol. And as Sagar mentioned, the internal switch or transition towards the sustainable version, which is your 2G, is something that is also happening along with just ethanol being a good source.
There was something about making ethanol from algae also, no?
Yeah, that comes into the next, which is your 3G ethanol, which is
3G.
the next step. But I think that's a little far away in terms of
Far-fetched.
it being
I mean, some
commercialized.
companies in the US have made some progress, but nothing as of
Yeah,
concrete has come into
yeah,
place.
exactly. Like it's just in its testing phase,
Yeah,
and
there's
until
also something
recently,
called
even
as
2G,
4G.
yeah, 4G
There's
is E.
also
coli
Jeez.
bacteria.
E. coli bacteria. Yeah.
It's like they're competing with all the telecom industry players.
इकोलाई
Yeah,
बैक्टीरिया वाला तो मतलब हॉस्पिटल से सीधा पेशेंट को
हाँ
उसके प्लांट
huh.
में ही डाल दो, मशीन में घुसा दो पेशेंट को,
हाँ,
इथेनॉल बना दो अभी इसका
But won't it be too dangerous to make it because E. coli is quite
फ्रॉम अ ह्यूमन.
No, not a human, because E. coli is quite bad, no?
But not all E.
Uh,
coli is bad bacteria,
But that
right?
is if you go and
Okay.
तुम प्लांट को जाकर चाटोगे तभी जाएगा ना तुम्हारे बॉडी में वो
हाँ ना.
fucking
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
so
Huh, so
so 2G का ऐसा मतलब so every 1G manufacturer will
yes,
have to, it will happen in two ways, right? Every 1G ethanol manufacturer will have to add capacity, right?
yeah,
Will have to मतलब they'll choose to add capacity because there is
Yeah.
demand, so they'll be like चल बिक रहा है तो और डालते हैं. And additionally they'll also put 2G equipment because why even waste what is getting wasted
Getting,
when
exactly.
they
yeah.
can churn something out of it. So then Praj's revenue growth will not be 1.5x. It
Can be
will be
more.
Uh, more.
1.5x plus
Yeah,
whoever wants to do 2G upgrades.
yeah,
And now the government is even pushing for 2G, like more than 1G, because of the food scarcity issues that might happen if you divert too many food resources towards ethanol production.
right.
And Praj has those expertise in 2G, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they
they're
do.
the first ones. So, like, just a bit of a history lesson.
Hmm.
2G became a thing that was supposed to be tested from 2019 onwards. So, the government had set up a small fund to, ja, late test. We'll set up 12 small, minute TG or 2G ethanol plants just to see whether it's a viable option. And Praj was the first one to do it in the entire of South Asia. So, and they tested and proved their theory that 2G works, and 2G works well in terms of utilizing all material that it has on its hands without wasting
They even
anything.
set up a plant last year for IOCL in Panipat,
Yeah, that's
Haryana.
where the next step comes in.
2G.
Yes. So
Yeah.
the Panipat plant was the first in the entirety of Asia to set up a 2G plant that actually works. And a fun fact about that plant is that so the material that it uses is broken rice or some form of rice that can't be consumed. And usually in Panipat or and the neighboring agricultural areas, that is usually burnt off, and that adds to whatever emission is already happening
Hmm.
in the country. So they utilize that material, and according to what testing has been done, if they use all of their material for 1 year, it's almost equivalent to taking off 63,000 cars off the road in a single year in India, because they're instead of burning that, they're making ethanol out of it.
Chal quiz time. Huh?
Ooh,
This is fastest answer wins. Okay, everybody
okay.
doesn't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
equal time.
Chalo, good.
Uh, which state is Panipat in?
Haryana.
Huh?
It's Haryana.
Haryana.
Yeah.
Sub wins.
Oh shit! I was caught off guard with that question.
I swear, bro. I
Nobody
was
would
like,
ask like what's the
ethanol.
chemical composition of ethanol
I
or something like that.
swear,
But like,
bro. I was like,
which
ethanol
Don't
ke
state
ask
baad
is
that
Panipat.
now.
Panipat?
We did something like this, no? Where you asked the chemical composition or something. Were we doing that? We did Tata Chemicals. I think that's when
टाटा
it was
केमिकल्स
an
हाँ
older
तभी मतलब
podcast.
सोडा ऐश पे पूरा रिसर्च किया है लेकिन सोडा ऐश
Yeah,
का साइंटिफिक
formula
नाम
नहीं
नहीं
पता है. Yeah.
पता.
It's okay now.
चल
We've
वन
left
मोर
the.
नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन
Hmm.
इथेनॉल का केमिकल फॉर्मूला बोलो.
मैंने तो
C2H6O.
Wow, C2H6. I wasn't sure about the numbers, but then.
The
So
numbers
उत्सव
make a
has
huge
PhD किया है
difference.
इथेनॉल के ऊपर.
उत्सव को एक मतलब 1 point for उत्सव 1 point for आयुष. Laksh, you
Lakshya
want
got
a point?
after a game, bro. You're gonna give sympathy question.
Yeah, I can give
तारक
Laksh a point.
तारक
If
मेहता
Laksh gives
क्वेश्चन.
me, then Laksh will. No, I don't have a Tarak Mehta question here. It'll pop.
Are we
No,
waiting
I
for the
need
question?
another chance. Yes.
Yeah, I'll shoot it at some point.
अच्छा.
Okay.
At some point, not now, okay. So suddenly one question will come and then it's like fastest fingers first.
Yeah.
Bro, can
So,
I?
as we were
Sorry.
saying,
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, no, continue.
No. You go ahead. I was just gonna do some time pass.
Of course. Yeah. So 2G
Sorry,
better than
I
1G.
have a question. Chal, Laksh,
Yeah.
this is your moment, okay?
This is your.
No, don't ask me. Hey, Utsav, even you answer, please.
No, but no one else has watched Tarak Mehta, na.
Oh,
Oh, the
like
Oh,
Tarak
that.
Mehta
Tarak Mehta
question.
question.
Oh,
I am
let's go.
giving you
Let's
a
go.
grace as an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Acha, I just need
Which
to connect my
village?
charger. Or just 10 seconds.
Which
अरे
I'll just
village?
connect
अबे
everything.
यार.
पॉडकास्ट है, nobody cares whether you want to correct your charger यार. बोल मत ना.
Which village does Jethalal's father come from or family come from?
Uh, Bachao.
Oh, chalo, 1 point each. We'll have to do a
Yes.
tiebreaker at some point.
Ethanol podcast and we're discussing Tarak Mehta.
Bro,
Tarak Mehta
please.
goes with anything. Okay,
I
it's
swear,
like a good
bro.
mixer.
If it goes
Like
with tea, it
ethanol with
goes with
petrol.
ethanol also. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so coming back, 2G ethanol or kachra ethanol, as was coined on this podcast, is seemingly
Hey, are you
better.
wearing a repeating T-shirt?
Oh, yes, I am. Lakshya's
Lakshya's
left
gone to
because he
strip.
doesn't get.
I swear,
Lakshya
bro.
sad.
I'm wearing this hoodie, bhai. When I want one.
I'll give you a repeating hoodie only.
Ah, yeah, then to sorted. Everywhere.
Repping the brand at the gym
I
also.
swear, bro. What gym, bro? I go to my society ka gym. That also has stopped.
I think you should
हाँ.
fuel your next workout with a repeating hoodie.
Yeah. 20%
Oh, nice.
petrol
20%.
and 20%. No, fuck, 80% petrol and
20%
20%
ethanol.
ethanol.
But all these governments in the world have like quite ambitious targets. 50% blending, 60%
So,
blending.
of course, now, bro, this is coming up.
But एक minute, 50-60% में गाड़ी चलेगा क्या? There has to be an
They
upper
make
limit to ethanol
technology.
blending as well, right?
So I think for Praj only, they unveiled a car like a, I think that's a wagon or something which runs apparently on 70 to 80% ethanol. But
पर वो
obviously
तो
it's
फट
in
नहीं
ethanol
Russia.
मिला
जाएगा
दो ना पूरा, पेट्रोल का जरूरत ही क्या है फिर?
नहीं वो
I
फट
don't know.
सकता है ना फिर कार
They have supposedly made the technology like that only. So the problem with ethanol is it burns very quickly. So
हम्म
that is another reason why they cannot add it in diesel right now because the ethanol will burn pehle and then the diesel ही
So
रह
you know
जाएगा.
what will happen? Basically, if it
Or-
increases by over 50% now, then it
Yeah,
stops becoming ethanol blended petrol. It
It becomes
becomes petrol
petrol
blended
blended
ethanol.
blended
blended
petrol.
ethanol
Yeah.
You know, a
yeah
good this one. This is amazing. Wait, this is you have to hear this. so, so basically, you know how like a heart transplant happens, किसी का
yeah
liver
yeah yeah
transplant कर
Yeah.
देते हैं, like that, right? So if somebody successfully does a head transplant,
Yeah.
okay, is it a head transplant or is it a body transplant?
Oh
it's
jeez.
a head transplant
I think it's still a head transplant.
yeah
Yeah.
No, but
What
someone
if you're
else's head has come
transplanting
there
someone
ना. Your
else's
brain
head?
is
Na?
हाँ अरे but उसका सर किसी और के बॉडी में चला गया ना. What is controlling your perception of what is there? Your brain, which is in the head.
Oh shit.
It's a deep
But
one,
then
okay? It's
does
not very.
transplant entail that the body that was there, उसका head is faulty, इसलिए change हुआ.
अबे
And that
I'm
reason
head
तो
was
telling
क्या
you
होगा?
clearly
we are
just
going to
there.
get comments saying like these people are stupid asking these questions
I
we're
came here
going
No,
to
to
but
know
Yeah.
ethanol. What
I
is this
swear
head
bro
body?
Yeah.
we're going to lose 100 subscribers also कि भाई
70.
ये
we're
मत
not there yet. You are at 73.
I'll get 20 or something. Everyone I see in Pune, I'll make them subscribe now.
Subscribe and get a free hoodie. Rupeeting ka.
Hey,
No, your
Free
hoodie will have a
bhai.
hoodie.
QR code at the back.
Huh?
Ah,
Yeah.
that's a good
Done.
idea.
Slide into my DMs, and then there'll be a QR code which will go to repeating ka page only.
The HR doesn't allow this.
It's like rickrolling everyone.
I swear, bro. But no, then
हाँ,
you should give it to Ayush, bro.
Ayush,
Ayush
तो
is,
Ayush has fans already. I'll tell you
yeah,
later how fans he
exactly.
I,
has in
I
this
am the
co-working space.
QR code.
Oh my lord.
You're the QT code.
Ooh.
Sagar's pretty smooth.
Always, bro. Yeah.
So let's
So,
get back. What's ethanol blended petrol is smoother.
yeah, apparently. So let's just get to like the crux of why ethanol and why there's even a debate between 1G and 2G. So let's do like a
Yeah.
comparison. So 1G is made from actual grains, 2G is made from shit grains. 1G
Shit,
का
मतलब
cost,
basically
like waste,
shit and bacha kucha.
बचा
Yeah.
कुछ,
Yeah.
yeah. 1G का cost to set up a plant is about 200 crores. And here's where the caveat is: a 2G plant costs about 700 crores for the same amount of capacity. Now, this
But
is
so
because the ethanol process has like two steps for a 1G ethanol, which is fermenting the sugar and then distilling it to create the ethanol. But because you use 2G and because you're using those broken or wasteful materials, it has to be further introduced to certain agents. So basically, making that cellulose ready to become sugar. That process is not just expensive, but time consuming, and the infrastructure for it is more. So it's automatically a more expensive endeavor overall. 1G is cheaper to make, but 2G is
But there's
better.
also, I think, arm twisting element in this, right? Because see, if Lakshya is a grain manufacturer,
Yeah.
उसको बोलेंगे चल तू इथेनॉल का प्लांट बैठा, तू इथेनॉल भी बना, लक्ष्य खुश हो जाएगा कि चल मेरा एक्स्ट्रा रेवेन्यू आ गया. फिर उसका वो बगास वगास कचरा निकल रहा है सब, देन यू लाइक चल एक और प्लांट बैठा, इसका भी इथेनॉल बना, बट
or two
आई
J
चार्ज यू
only.
हायर. देन लक्ष्य विल से नो, आई
हाँ.
वोंट पे हायर. देन हाँ ठीक है, फक ऑफ,
Yeah,
रख
exactly.
कचरा
Yeah.
अपने पास.
Yeah.
तो
That's true. Because I'm sure that's what's going to
But
yeah,
happen.
then
yeah,
they
that's
can
why it
go
must be
on.
like so much more expensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they can go and sell that kachra to the person who already has, na?
Still, probably your ROI will be lower, right? So it will be priced at a point where your ROI is such that even thoda sa kam if you pay for the plant, your kachra selling becomes unviable.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Smart pricing.
That's
But
true.
now how
Smart
does
pricing.
who Indian Oil had put up na in
Yeah.
Haryana?
Indian Oil.
Yeah.
That plant cost about 900 crores because,
But
But
that's a whole
then
new market, right? Because now
yeah.
refineries, it's not about manufacturers, it's about refineries themselves setting up plants and taking the ethanol in. So
Yeah.
that opens a whole new market in terms of Reliance doing it or HPCL, BPCL, whoever else also
correct
Right.
attempting that.
Which is probably what's going to happen also. Like, that's the newer market that Praj is now tackling.
targeting.
I believe Praj
Exactly.
also has orders from HPC and BPCL.
Oh,
And
really?
Ethanol.
apart from all of that, also, they are now in a joint venture with Indian Oil to help with the entire ethanol blending process and everything. So
So
they'll have
Well,
an entity together.
haven't they also
so
signed a
then
deal with just 1 second, Lash, with IOCL only to make something known as sustainable aviation fuel?
Oh, yeah, interesting
Yeah,
that you
that
brought
thing.
that up.
We
So,
should. I think we'll just talk about that later. Laksh has something to say, I guess.
no, this is more
एक
interesting. Go
मिनट,
ahead.
एक तो तेरा आयुष, आई एम डिस्क्वालिफाइंग यू फ्रॉम द क्विज, ओके? Because
because,
ethanol is CH3CH2OH.
shit. Wait, what? Really?
Wait, there is an
देखा?
H.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, obviously.
hydrogen.
Hydrogen is very.
Okay, so I'm still leading, na, like 1-0-0.
No.
No, Lakshan, you are on the same.
No,
110.
ethanol is C2H6O only.
Yeah. Ethyl
Yeah,
alcohol.
Ethanol.
C2H6O.
C2H6O.
But
Hmm.
I can see ethanol CH3CH2OH. एक मिनट,
What?
Its chemical
CH2?
formula is this. The formula can also be written as CH3CH2OH. Can
No, the
also. So
placement
basically,
also
Aish is right.
matters, no?
What
Aish
did
is
you
right.
say it
No,
is?
that
C?
that is
Oh, yeah,
acetic
correct.
acid.
Correct, correct. CH3, CH2, OH. If you add up the
OH.
C's and the
हाँ.
H's, it's the same only.
I'm not sure
If that's how
chemical
chemistry
formulas
works.
work that
No,
way.
that is right. Yeah, the multiplication happens.
What
Fuck yeah,
what did
Tejas
you
should have
say?
been here. Yeah, he could have just
CH2?
cleared this confusion away.
No, he would have shouted at all of us. Would have been like,
इतना भी नहीं आता है गवारो.
हाँ ना मैं करता हूँ पूरा पॉडकास्ट जाओ तुम लोग.
Yeah, actually debatable. क्योंकि it can be written in two ways. Sorry, Ayush,
Yeah.
I'm taking it back.
I think
Apologies.
we should put Sagar on -1 now.
देखो
False
पता है
alarm.
मेरा, I'm already at +20 right now.
अरे
उसका
अरे
-1 मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, लेके जाओ तुम लोग. मेरा इतना
Yeah.
पॉडकास्ट हो गया ना, इतना जीता हूँ मैं.
Your voice
Yeah,
is.
your voice is not coming.
It's okay. It'll edit automatically. Don't.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I've
Acha,
been ignoring it because it'll record separately anyway.
Oh, okay.
okay, okay. But we can't hear now what he's saying, so we
Yeah.
don't
No,
understand.
Sagar has stopped talking because we're talking
Is it
now.
okay now? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Acha, oh, so that was like a previous video, pehle ka video.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
little lag, but it'll merge itself
Uh,
in the final.
Okay.
Now I have to edit
now it
this.
just,
Simply 1 minute I have to edit in
nah,
between.
All because of Sagar only now.
No, because of you all making it obvious that Sagar's this thing is lagging.
So what?
Now
Our
talk,
viewers
talk.
won't realize. Can we
Lana,
think that number
hey,
something?
now,
Arey
acha, chal, let's get back to the
fucker.
topic.
The audio and video will merge together in the post.
Together.
I don't have to do shit.
Oh, acha. Okay,
That's
like
what,
that.
na,
That's what I told you
what is
that time
that?
also.
Okay,
I
okay,
have to
उत्सव
okay.
edit
को
the
बहुत
मुझे
गंदा
ब्लेम
हैबिट
करने
है.
का मौका मिल गया
So sorry,
सागर
यार.
की वजह से.
अरे
गाली खाने
अरे
में बहुत मजा आता है यार उत्सव को. Every morning he wakes up and he's like, आज कौन सा गाली खाऊंगा मैं.
but I say it very endearingly. Huh? I call all my friends
Yeah,
fucktards.
No, I don't
yeah.
mind.
Oh, so you all are
I've been
friends are
called
now.
worse
You all
things.
are.
I've been called worse things by my friend. You have no
Yeah.
idea. I can't say it on the podcast.
Arey Utsav,
Please don't.
this is not a therapy session right now. We'll get on to that later on.
The
Okay.
therapist recommends that you drink a little bit of ethanol.
You'll die if you drink ethanol. No?
Hey, don't,
Just
yeah.
that's it.
Actually, he'll be like 80% Utsav, 20% ethanol. Ethanol blended Utsav.
Ulta. Did Utsav do
Don't
a
travel on
wardrobe
this
change in the
one.
middle of the podcast?
No, I was wearing this only.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I thought you were wearing something white for some reason.
No, Sark is wearing one. Achha, why are
That
we
was
discussing
the
what we are wearing? We're supposed to discuss
that was
Praj
the
and ethanol.
towel behind him, bro. Hey,
So,
no, content.
yeah, what were we saying?
That jet fuel car. Ajay, no, I had one question.
Huh.
So, wouldn't 2G type of ethanol be like a full like a big institutional play, like institution as in these big oil companies or something, refinery
Yeah,
companies?
yeah.
So that's what the game is going to be apparently. So all these HPCL, BPCL orders, instead of for 1G ethanol, it's for 2G because the raw material is cheaper for them to source and they have the funds lying around to set up a 2G ethanol plant.
And what do they use ethanol for?
Who does?
That petrol
They'll
only.
to directly blend their own petrol with the ethanol, no?
Petrol, huh? But they don't use it apart from
I don't
apart
think
from
there's
that.
doesn't
No, I
seem to
don't
be
think
any
so.
other logical use case other than them blending it with their own petrol.
Okay. So
So
now we
it's
can
cheaper
talk
for them.
about
It'll be quite lucrative,
yeah.
at least from a theoretical standpoint.
Hmm.
And 2G ethanol ka emissions are like lesser, or rather, they reduce more emissions than 1G also.
But I think that must be like a similar this thing, right? Like the more you refine it,
Yeah.
the more you're emitting during the process of refining. So the end
हाँ.
product is probably emitting lesser, लेकिन वो बनाने में तुमने आधा emission तो पहले ही निकाल दिया है ना.
I'm sure they thought
But
of that,
net
right?
net
Like,
थोड़ा कम होएगा. Like
huh.
net.
No, I agree. Emission will be lower for that 2G ethanol, but I'm just saying that the
बनाने
consumption
में
of
हाँ.
resources to get there is higher, and that compensates for the lower emission of the end product.
That is something that we'll have to check
As
into.
in, for
But
example, if you had to,
तो suppose वो ethanol बनाने में जो
but
हाँ,
there's no,
2G ethanol बनाने का energy consumption जो है,
but that's
that
very
is higher.
minimal, na? Because it's just fermenting and distilling. There's not a lot of energy that's being consumed in the process.
Ah,
There's no
yeah.
burning, there's no other fuel being used to make the machine run. It's a very sustainable process also in itself.
Okay, ठीक है.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Otherwise, so yeah, then there would be like a net loss probably in
हाँ.
terms of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you're trying to make fuel by
Huh,
processing, but that
that's what.
process is taking a certain amount of energy which you're not accounting for.
This is the argument for like EVs, right? Because to mine lithium, it takes
हाँ.
petroleum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or to even like power your electricity if your current
Yeah.
energy
It's
mix of the
coal.
country itself is
It's cold.
dependent on coal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
तो तुम
Coal.
कोयला जला
हाँ.
के बैटरी में गाड़ी डाल रहे हो ना, मतलब
Exactly.
that is
And
Yeah.
that is the
This
thing.
is,
Like
huh.
कि जिधर तुम इधर कम कर रहे हो रोड पे, बट माइंस और उसमें उधर ही उतना बढ़ रहा है.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
that case, yes, for sure. It's probably not making a whole lot of difference. But in this case, there seems to be no excess
But
usage
that,
of energy.
but that's the thing. Like people don't see the crux of everything. Like EV ka also, people just think, oh, I'm driving an EV, I'm saving
You're
the
making a
world or something.
difference. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they don't see root cause तक कितना जाता है वो.
And it's like those people, yeah, like risky thing to say, but like a few of my friends who've turned vegan, but they'll fly business class.
हाँ,
So it's like, yeah,
exactly. Or
in
like,
fact, there was
तुम
this
10
interview
जन
that
का खर्चा
happened in
कर रहे हो
the,
इसमें
yeah,
मिशन में.
exactly.
दो मुर्गी
So,
बचा के तुम 10 जन का खर्चा कर रहे हो फ्लाइट में.
yeah. Plus, apparently, like
yeah, but
vegan food to source the materials also, a lot of it is flown
exactly.
in through
Yeah.
another country.
Like that.
That's your.
Piers Morgan says no.
I was
That
just gonna
your
reference that only.
yeah. Avocados are sourced in from Mexico.
Exactly.
All of
And they're
that.
flown into the
Yeah,
US.
exactly. Because you all want them fresher, or
Exactly.
like at least fresh. So that's what it's. They
It's quite a
they
double
think
standard
they're
everywhere, except
yeah,
evidently in ethanol.
yeah. So that's where Praj
Yeah.
is going to benefit.
Yeah.
So all these environmentalists and all, if you really care, then ethanol
Yeah.
blend करके दिखाओ फिर बात करो.
Avocado में भी ethanol खाओ.
So coming back, and since we were talking about planes anyway, we might as well bring up what Utsav mentioned earlier.
Yes.
So, sustainable aviation fuel, which is basically a kind of jet fuel that is made from agricultural or forest waste. So they were trying to blend that into jet fuel and try to see whether the emissions are reducing when people are flying, because the global aviation sector makes up for like 3 to 5% of total emissions in the world. So they did a test flight where Air Asia, with in collaboration with Tata, flew from Pune to Delhi with a 1% blend of SAF, which is a sustainable aviation fuel, with jet fuel, and like it was a very smooth ride or everything. Like there were no complications, there were no technical difficulties, nothing of that sort. And now they're planning on expediting that process, making it a 2% blend over the next few years, and eventually even that will reduce emissions to up to 65% from where they are now,
Okay, I have
which
a question
also
for you all.
was with Praj
Like
and
an
Indian Oil. So they were the ones who
Yeah.
were
so
part
two
of this
percent
project.
blend will reduce the emissions by 65%.
Sorry?
A 2% blend in aviation fuel
Yeah.
would reduce the emissions by 65%. You're saying?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
Fuck.
Utsav, you had a question as well.
I was going to ask you, how much do you think is the maximum that is being blended in aviation fuel right now? That is being tested, and the government thinks
Just
will
said
come.
na the 2%.
No.
That's what, now. So 1% was the test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
then
they,
what's the maximum that's being tested right now, and the government, all the European, especially European government thinks will come out in the next few years.
not sure.
Is
Do you
that
have
Any
an
a
answer
guesses?
to
question
that?
like
Is it a
a?
rhetorical
Yeah, I
Acha.
have
question
an
and you know
answer
the
to that. Yeah,
answer?
yeah, I have an answer.
Acha.
Oh, like
And what are
that.
your
What is
guesses?
that?
I don't
I
know,
think it
20,
would be
30?
around 10%.
You, Sagar?
8.
It's currently 50%.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was
50% is being
closer.
tested right now.
I get a point for that, yeah?
No, you
What was
don't.
what was Laksh's answer?
10.
10.
So Laksh wins.
No, he said
No.
50.
No,
50.
50, 50,
We said
50.
50.
Yeah, so
Okay.
closest was to this one, na?
Me, na? I
No,
said
no,
No,
30%.
no,
30,
50
he
was
said
the
Oh, 30.
answer. 50 was the
Yes.
answer. I
But
thought
he
Lux
said
said 10.
30.
I thought he said 10.
Yeah, yeah, so I said 10 only, bhai. No.
Never mind. But then, yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool that around 50% will be blended. Like, that's like a
Yeah.
currently like lot than what is being blended into your fuel right now.
Yeah.
So, a lot of
So
scope. And
overall,
I was,
this so Praj is basically attacking about 50% of the world's, sorry, not 50, 30% of the world's entire emissions in the manner of ethanol blending and sustainable aviation fuel blending, which is
So
something that they
that's
do, both of those things.
okay.
Very
So,
commendable.
Praj's financials.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to quickly run us through the
Yes.
numbers?
So, revenue-wise, they have they've gone up by 31% 5-year CAGR. So basically,
CAGR.
from about almost 1,000 crores to now north of 3,500 crores, which is great in a 5-year span. EBITDA margins have gone from 6% to 9%. Profitability in general, overall net profit has gone from 4% margins to 6%. And their return ratios have shown incredible growth with ROC from 7% to 29 and ROE from 5 to 22. And share price has gone by 5 times in this entire span. So exceptional growth on all fronts.
And there are no corporate governance
And how much
issues.
have they
No,
grown since 2020, since this entire biofuel thing started getting some traction?
it's been getting traction since 2018. That's
No,
when the
because in
fuel policy
2020,
came
the
out, right?
government even, I think, introduced like even more blending they wanted. And
Right,
that is why I think in 2020 only all these companies started, deciding like ethanol ke upar how much do you want to spend and stuff.
right. I think so. 2020 that will make it a 2-year CAGR.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
but you don't want to see that number because again, COVID and all that shit was happening
Yeah,
at that
but
time. So
Yeah.
so the numbers will be double then because then
it'll
their
it'll get
revenue CAGR.
distorted.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
2020-21 is never a bad, is
Yeah.
never a good time to
Good.
base your
Yeah.
But just
viewpoint
for
at.
like the sake of saying it, I think it was about 60 to 65% revenue CAGR from 20 to 23 because of low base.
But that's the important bit is this, right? I mean, but like obviously there is visibility of at least ethanol
Yeah,
consumption being 50%
Grow.
higher.
yeah,
And then the relevant bit for Praj being that obviously capacity has to increase by 40-50%. Additionally, everybody has to set up a 2G plant.
yeah,
And additionally, there are refineries which want to set up plants at the source itself so that they don't have to buy ethanol from somewhere else, but they can just make their own ethanol and blend it up.
yeah.
So
Plus they don't have like a lot of competitors also, like domestic competitors.
Who, Praj?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like
Yeah.
No,
there is a lot of
At least
competition.
not on their level, right?
not on their
Yeah,
level
not at the
exactly.
scale that they're
So
operating.
then that also will
They do have
help
companies like
them.
Thyssen Group and all, but then yeah, I don't think so. Like Thyssen Group could compete with Praj at this level.
Yeah,
So all in all, Praj looks like a
yeah. Great
good
company to
company.
look into once again.
Yeah.
does anybody
Sa-
else have a better conclusion for the podcast?
I don't think so. Oh shit.
Chalo, आगे.
Okay. Okay, so then I think that's a clear indication that we should wrap up the podcast. If Sagar can do the clap, then we can end this. Thank you all for watching and stay tuned
And
for
it's a
the next
wrap.
week.